Hey, brother.
Hey, Al.
And welcome everyone back to another episode of Siblings in Crime. I'm Allie Rossell.
And I'm Blake Murphy.
And just as it sounds, we are siblings who love true crime.
Yes, love it.
Love it. And we are back in our studio. Last week we were in Utah. We made it home.
Yep.
Now it's back to business.
Back to business, as usual.
As usual. And if you haven't yet, please like, subscribe, follow, and send a request of a case you want to listen to, because I would love to get a case request on siblingsincrime.com.
Yep, that's true.
Do you have anything you'd like to add?
I'd like to add that we appreciate everyone.
True.
And we love you.
We love you. Yes, truly do. It's been so fun. So thank you for the support.
Yes, thank you to our 225 subscribers.
You're so on top
YouTube.
of that.
I look at it like 5 times a day.
Not TikTok, not Instagram. You guys don't get shout outs.
Well, I think it's like 300 and something on TikTok and
our Instagram
like
is
119
like
on Instagram or something.
That's true. And then there's like a certain amount of Spotify followers. We could really deep dive into it. But
yeah. We'll just pretend that everyone on each thing is different.
True.
So we have like
so we have
1,000.
a huge following all of a sudden.
We have like 600.
That'd be super cool. It'd be nice once we get enough followers that we can stream across all of our platforms.
Yeah.
The day will come. So please send it to a friend. It's super helpful. It goes a long way.
Yep.
All right. In the summer of 2011, a tragic accident inside a historic California mansion was followed just days later by another death, one far more difficult to explain. What investigators ruled a suicide would become one of the most debated and divisive cases in modern true crime, where the same set of facts would tell two completely different stories. This is the case of Rebecca Zahau.
It stood out that there's something wrong here. You know, I've responded out to suicide scenes, and I've never had a suicide scene look like this.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's roll. So let's start with Rebecca Zahau. We were just talking before we started recording a little bit about her and her experience. She was born in Myanmar. Mm-hmm. Formerly known as Burma, so like the Asian country. So that's where she grew up during her childhood and her adolescence. And she ended up traveling to many different countries, including like Germany, and she also was in Nepal.
She's a world traveler.
She's a world traveler, as you may say. And because of that, she's like so smart, like culturally, and she speaks multiple languages. Like I think in one source...
Was her dad like a diplomat or something? Like...
No, actually, I didn't write this down, but he was like a prisoner of war, and then when he got out is when they went to Germany, and like I don't know like what all that happened. That's why I left it out. But I was like, what is going on here? This is 2000s, so
2000s?
Or sorry, I guess not. Our story takes place in 2000s, so this had to been 1980s maybe.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah,
about
what?
1980s.
I was like,
yeah. So she
prisoner of war in 1980.
Or a prisoner, or she was born in 1980.
Okay, so maybe like
So,
World War II or
and like I said, I read that somewhere. I didn't fact check any of it. It was a prisoner of some type, and then all I know is that when he got out, that's why they went to Germany. But I'm not sure all the different reasons why they would move. But yeah, she had a lot of experience with people and culture, and some sources said she could speak up to 6 languages, which you have to be smart to be able to learn. Yeah, to learn all those languages. I'm like, you got to be a little bit smarty pants, because not a chance I can even learn a second language, unfortunately. So
I did.
Kind of.
No, I did.
Speak Spanish to us.
I'm not gonna speak it right now.
You say that every time. I've never heard you speak Spanish.
I said I did.
Okay. Well, she went to the United States when she was 22 years old.
Okay.
So that's when she came across. And like I said, she was highly intelligent, and she was also very artistic and very...
Damn.
Yeah, she was stunning. I'll show you. I have so many photos to show you of this week's case, so I'm going to be constantly pulling these crime scenes photos up and such.
Yeah.
She was so beautiful, extremely close with her family, and stayed in frequent communication with them. So Rebecca actually married a man by the name of Neil in 2002, but the marriage didn't last very long. Some sources say 3 years, some say 8.
Neils
whatever.
are creeps.
Neils? Hilarious. I feel like that sounds right for some reason. Why is that?
I don't know.
That's so interesting. It seemed like the relationship was great sometimes and not great other times. It was just back and forth. And finally, they're like, we're separating. And that was in February of 2011, just months before our story is actually going to take place. So professionally, Rebecca worked as, this is the word I was practicing yesterday. Wait, what's the eye doctor?
Optometrologist. I can't say it now.
Ophthalmologist.
No, that's not it.
Ophthalmologist.
Yeah.
Ophthalmologist.
Something like that.
Well, she was the technician for that. So it's called a OPHTHALMIC. Ophthalmic technician. Ophthalmic technician.
No, that doesn't sound right.
That's right. Ophthalmic technician is her profession. She assisted the eye doctor with patient care and eye examinations. So yeah. I'm just going to keep saying eye doctor. It doesn't come up ever again. So I'm just going to move past it. I don't have eye issues. I never go to that doctor. So I don't know. So you should know how to say it because you have eye issues.
I say eye doctor.
Yeah. Well, anyways, reports show that she helped support her family financially. Like, she was very career-driven. She made this money, sent it back home type of situation.
What a girl.
Yeah, she's freaking baller. So, obviously, like, even though she did have some family in the States, sounds like they were kind of all over. But regardless of where anyone was, she was supportive and in very good communication. So, employment records indicate that she actually left her position in December of 2010, despite loving her job and financially supporting her family. And this seemed due to the fact that Rebecca met Jonah Shacknai around 2009.
Jonah?
Jonah.
She likes weird guys.
Jonah was a founder and CEO of a pharmaceutical company.
Damn.
Yeah, he was rich. Medvantex, I think is what it was called. He was significantly older than Rebecca because around this time, when they started dating, she was about 30 years old, and Jonah was 52. So, 22-year age gap. That's
just a number.
It's a pretty big age gap. Well, Rebecca and Jonah entered into a romantic relationship pretty quickly, and it seemed like a whirlwind type where they fell head over heels type of thing. But they never married. So their relationship started in 2009. And as you remember, her divorce finalized in 2011. So her and Neil had been separated. She got in this other relationship. It doesn't seem like she was hung up over Neil. Doesn't seem like... Yeah, but then she didn't remarry, probably because her divorce wasn't finalized, but also, I don't know if they were, like, eager to get married. But anyways, they sound stoked. So that's our characters thus far. And over the period of their 2-year relationship, Rebecca spent extended periods living within Jonah residences, as you can imagine, including an oceanfront historic Spreckles Mansion is what it's called. I was like, that's kind of a funny name.
Yeah.
It began, so she began like this lavish lifestyle. This mansion is in Coronado.
Oh, nice. That's cool.
Yeah, beautiful place. So Rebecca developed a close relationship with Jonah and his children. So he had a previous marriage, previous child. Particularly,
How old are they?
I know, that's why I was like 30 years old, you know. No, his son, the one that she got particularly close with, was only 6 years old.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, very, very young. His name is Max, and he is the freaking cutest kid you have ever seen. Multiple sources, including family statements and interviews cited in the Oxygen documentary, which a lot of this information comes from Oxygen. It describes Rebecca as actively involved in caring for Max. Like, she really stepped into that, like, motherly role when Max was with his dad.
Cool.
Yeah. So, all this said, now that's, like, fast forward, takes us to where our story begins in July 11th of 2011. Rebecca was staying at the Spreckles Mansion in Coronado with the 6-year-old son, Max. And Max had been visiting his father and was under Rebecca's care at this time. It seemed as though Jonah was out on business trips quite a bit. So he was like in and out of the house, and Rebecca was the main caregiver. Look at how dang cute he is. Mm-hmm. He has like the brightest smile I've ever seen. Oh, he's so cute. Well, some retellings say he was playing on a scooter. Some say that he was just goofing around, whatever. That is not any official records. Regardless, at some point during the day, Max somehow fell from an interior staircase, dropping more than 2 stories to the ground below. Isn't that the most heartbreaking thing? Oh, yeah. Dang!
I thought the lady was gonna die.
I'm gonna start crying right here, right now. Yeah, and so the fall caused catastrophic injuries. Max suffered severe head trauma and was rendered unresponsive, like right away. Emergency services were called, and he was transported to Rady's, I think is how you say it, Rady's Children's Hospital in San Diego. Medical personnel determined that the injuries were life-threatening, and Max was placed on life support right away. The injuries were so severe that he went into a coma with little expectation of recovery.
Dang.
Doesn't that make you like so sick? I can't imagine. And Rebecca was present like during the fall when the fall occurred. And as you can imagine, she feels like an insane amount of guilt. Like you're the responsible caregiver for this child. Like he's under your care.
Yeah.
And she wasn't able to prevent this from happening. According to reporting and family statements, she was unbelievably distraught. Like I literally cannot imagine. Like of course I can't imagine if it's your own child. But also like when someone else trusts you with their kid, like I feel like that's almost like a different type of responsibility.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how that would compare. I don't know. So Jonah returned immediately after learning of his son's condition and stayed there at the hospital for some time. I'm unsure of the situation, like how serious Jonah's job was. Evidently had been very important because while he was at the hospital, he was there for a short amount of time, but he had a business meeting. So he didn't stay like that long at the hospital with Jonah. Obviously Jonah was like Jonah didn't stay with Max the whole time in the hospital. He had a business meeting. Obviously Max was in the best healthcare situation he could be in. Jonah's stinking rich, so hopefully he's having like the best doctors. Regardless, after Jonah's departure, Rebecca stayed at the Spreckles mansion. So she's kind of alone at this time.
Yeah.
Like homeboy's out on a business trip. She's at the mansion. Like she just left the hospital as well. And obviously Max is not doing well. During this time though, Adam Shackney, which is Jonah's brother, he came into town. He arrived at the property. Adam stated that he was there to assist with household matters while Jonah was away. He was trying to be helpful. Do anything he could, really. He remained on site during the days following Max's injury. Kind of just, I don't know, maybe just being like a supportive presence. I feel like if something happened, like it's normal for family to come into town. So let me paint you this picture.
All right, quick break from the case. Because if you've ever looked up at a plane and thought, I wonder what it's like to actually fly one, this is for you. Today's episode is brought to you by Simply Fly Flight School, a local flight school right here in Arizona that makes learning to fly simple, fast, and actually affordable. Simply Fly offers discovery flights where you can get in a real plane with a certified flight instructor, take the controls, and experience what it's like to be an actual pilot. No experience needed, just show up and enjoy. And for our listeners, you can get $10 off your discovery flight when you book through simplyflyco.com. Whether you're checking off a bucket list item, thinking about becoming a pilot, or just want the coolest experience you'll have all year, this is it. Head to simplyflyco.com, book your discovery flight, and use podcast discount to save $10. Now back to true crime.
This was like 2 days after Max's accident. Just before dawn, Adam walked through the house and out toward the rear exterior area.
Who's Adam?
The brother.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He's staying around. Yeah, so Adam walked through the house and out toward the rear exterior area of the mansion. From the ground below, he saw something hanging from an upper level exterior balcony. Rebecca Zahau's body was suspended by a rope tied to the balcony railing. She was naked, her wrists and ankles were bound, and her hands positioned behind her back. A length of rope extended upward, securing to the railing, where her feet were off the ground. A cloth gag was placed in her mouth, and there was no sign of movement. Quite the scene.
Jeez.
Can't imagine stumbling upon that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, Adam used and records say a ladder or this little three-legged table. Regardless, he got up, he cut the rope, lowering Rebecca's body to the ground below. He then called 911 and later stated that she was cold to the touch and wasn't breathing. I was really hoping I could get my hands on this 911 call because I feel like obviously you don't know how you're going to react in that situation, but I feel like sometimes it is telling. You're like, Let me hear how you're talking to this guy. So there's nothing recorded. According to law enforcement summaries, though, Adam reported that he had found a woman hanging and that she was not breathing. Emergency responders were dispatched immediately to the scene. And they're familiar with this house. They were here 2 days earlier to support Max. When first responders arrived, they found Rebecca Zahau deceased. She was pronounced dead at the mansion. Investigators secured the property and began documenting the scene. And by mid-morning...
Where's Jonah this time?
He must be on his business meeting. He's not at the house. Yeah,
okay.
so he's been gone.
So Adam.
So Adam has been around, though.
Interesting.
And now this is a crime scene. I will say, I have been shocked about this because... We'll go into it a little bit, but it's almost hard to say. It's hard to see if the investigators have a little bit of confirmation bias, where she was the one that was responsible. Going into it, you're probably already thinking this is a suicide.
Mm-hmm.
So investigators...
hangings, too, are suicide, not
Yeah,
really.
exactly. So it's it's not as common that people murder that way, in contrast. So investigators documented the bindings, the knots, the placement of the rope. A ladder was present at the scene, evidently on some sources, which Adam said that he had used to cut the rope. There was no signs of forced entry into the residence, no suicide note, like I said. And so they went straight into the autopsy. The autopsy was conducted by the San Diego County Medical Examiner. So, toxicology testing. Do you think anything's in her system?
Alcohol?
That's what I would think. Yeah. If she's that distraught, I feel like you're drinking, you're depressed, something happens. There's no alcohol, no drugs, nothing in her system, completely squeaky clean. And they decided that there was no evidence of sexual assault found during the examination as well. Yeah. The medical examiner documented ligature marks on the neck, consistent with a hanging, and additional injuries were noted, including blunt force injuries to the head, as well as injuries to the torso and extremities, like bruising. The examiner determined that these injuries were not fatal on their own and were consistent with events occurring close to the time of death. So it's not like she got bruised 2 days earlier and they're looking at it now. The medical examiner stated these injuries were consistent with movement, contact, or friction during the act of hanging. So this is what the investigators are thinking. They proposed that she had committed suicide, and in the action of hanging, her body would have hit the house, hit something, causing other bruising outside of just a neck injury. Mm-hmm. I find that odd. I'm no detective. There's Oxygen did this huge, what's the term? They did experiments with her weight and all this stuff, and we're gonna go into that. It seems weird that she would have that much bruising in different spots. And it's not counted as any type of assault. So the medical
people bruise easily though. Some, especially women.
Yeah, is it low iron? Why is that?
I don't know.
She was only 100 pounds. She's tiny. So, yeah, it definitely could be a factor. So the medical examiner ruled Rebecca Zahau's cause of death as asphyxiation by hanging, and the manner of death was ruled a suicide. In the report, the examiner stated that the injuries observed were consistent with Rebecca acting alone, and there was no medical evidence or any type of thing indicating that there was a third person involved.
Third?
A third party.
I was
person. This conclusion would later become the foundation of law enforcement's official position. And this is what starts the whole dispute that we're going to be getting into. So, after reviewing the scene and autopsy findings, investigators decided, so that was the medical examiner. Now investigators are okay, yep, suicide alone. And so I'm going to set this up for you. We're going to do suicide versus homicide theories.
Okay.
Because what is so weird about this case is they're using the same evidence and they're looking at it differently and coming to two different, completely different conclusions. So, first of all, the scene and access. So, evidently there's no forced entry or struggle documented, and there's no evidence on the balcony that anybody else was there. They're thinking she was the only one in the main house overnight. Okay, obviously it's a mansion. She's in the main house by herself. Adam, the brother who's in town, he was staying in the guest house. So he technically wasn't in the main house. And so investigators are like, Adam was not involved. He was in the guest house. And I'm confused as to why they wouldn't think that somebody could walk 10 steps over to the main house when he did it at 6 a.m, not too long later. So the family is like, okay, first of all, this looks suspicious. Second of all, to the family, Adam becomes the primary suspect because...
To the family?
To the family. Like, Rebecca's family.
Oh, Rebecca's family.
Yeah, Rebecca's family. Adam becomes the primary suspect, but without the case being ruled a homicide or even undetermined, case is closed and there's no suspect.
Yeah.
So frustrating. So that's one thing that investigators point to a lot. They're like, there was no evidence anyone else was here, which I find odd. Like, why not Adam? And I'm not going to be slandering Adam the whole time because there's no evidence that he was legally involved. But I do want to bring that up a couple times because I'm like, that's your stance, investigators, that there's not somebody like 20 feet away. I don't know.
Yeah. But I feel like if there was a big fight, there'd be like things broken.
True.
And if there's not, then that's also...
Probably would be things broken. I mean, the crime scene photos, there were like things on the ground. I'll have this up. Like things were like kind of, it looks like kind of messy. Not like the things where like the mirrors are broken. There was like knives on the floor though. And it looked kind of like something happened. But investigators are under the influence that it was all Rebecca just having a mental breakdown. So also with forensics and DNA, obviously I'm a huge DNA girl. I love when that's in a case. And they didn't find anything. They didn't pull any fingerprints, any DNA, anything that would implicate that another person was present. But I will say critics argue that they don't think that the scene was processed properly. Yeah. Allegedly.
They were assuming.
Yeah, exactly. Like alleged failure to test or preserve all potential trace evidence, like it didn't happen and it was lost. And so obviously the family, Rebecca's family, every time I say the family, I'm talking about Rebecca's. Every time, I mean, if the family thinks that foul play was involved, of course, you're going to be pointing fingers like, you guys only thought it was suicide. Like, you didn't process it right. So I don't have facts on, like, did they actually process it perfectly to see if there was any other evidence? Obviously, you have Adam staying in the house. You have other family members staying in the house. So I'm sure you found normal prints that you would expect from the Jonas family.
Yeah.
So maybe they're, like, nothing out of the ordinary. Like, no random person just came in here is what they're probably thinking. But the investigators had the medical staff, the examiner, backing them up because they right away said it was cause was ligature hanging, manner was suicide, and that there was nothing obvious of an attack, like no sexual assault, and also no defensive wounds. So I think it's easy for someone who thinks suicide right when they walk in to be like, see, medical examiner said it, closed case. But the blunt force injuries were discussed on both sides, like both the investigators and the family side. But the injuries evidently were non-fatal and non-incapacitating. So people think that it wasn't an attempt for an attacker to like subdue Rebecca. Like those bruises and stuff, it didn't look like it was trying to like prevent her from running away and that kind of thing. So, and they had that pathologist that explained it away that it's plausible that this could have happened from the impact during the fall. So you have a pathologist saying, yeah, those are consistent potentially with a fall, with like banging up against house, whatever. But plausible, the question of this whole case is plausible the most likely. Because physically, can Rebecca do this to herself is one question, but did she do it to herself is a whole nother question. So...
yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, a second autopsy was done, as you can imagine. I love when a second autopsy is done.
Yeah,
I'm like,
you do.
you go, family.
Yeah.
Do what you got to do. A second autopsy was done, and he cited internal neck findings that he felt were inconsistent with hanging alone. That there were other injuries to the neck that didn't involve just strictly hanging. And he actually classified it as a homicide.
Whoa.
So we have one guy saying it is a suicide, one guy saying it is a homicide, and of course it just depends on who hired the guy, it feels like.
Yeah.
Here is the exterior balcony. So she ended up falling about 9 feet. And a lot of reports say that she was hanging from or the rope was tied to the balcony. However, I watched like one of those experimental things that they did in order to like recreate this this case, and the rope looks like it went in through the balcony doors, and it was actually tied to the bed frame.
Oh.
And so when she fell, that bed had moved 7 inches. It had pulled, but when it was recreated, it moved like 30 inches. So that's just kind of a weird side note. And I don't know what it means, if it means anything, just another suspicious thing. That a lot of things say it's tied right there, but it looks like it was actually tied to the interior house, which is also kind of a weird thing to do.
Maybe she like climbed over and lowered herself down rather than like jump off.
Yeah, that's
So,
the
like, that's
only
the
thing that
difference.
would work. I mean,
Yeah.
you couldn't.
Like
But
didn't
that's
cause
so-
as much
But you
force.
gotta keep in mind, she has her ankles and wrist bound.
Oh.
So it's like, and this is the knot that is tied. That's an example with like her hands, but that's like the knot that's tied around the wrist. And that is like, I couldn't do that. But maybe Rebecca has a lot more skill than I have. And behind your back is kind of gnarly. So I can see where you're coming from. It had to have been placed down in order for the bed to not move 40 inches. But how easy that would have been with your hands and ankles bound, I don't think it'd be very easy. And I'm trying not to be biased to
True.
homicide alone. But these are just suspicious things that are getting brought up.
Yeah.
So, as far as like there's this 4 specific distinct areas of head trauma. As far as like the homicide theory goes, critics argue that multiple impacts are unlikely in controlled hanging. Like you're not like swinging like crazy. You're not doing crazy things. And that it seems very unlikely that you'd have 4 separate head injuries from hanging. So it sounded like it was more of an assault assault sounded more plausible to those who are thinking it's homicide.
Yeah.
But the 2 things that investigators harp on the most, that they're like, no, for sure suicide, here's the 2 reasons. 1, it's physically feasible, which it's crazy to think that because you're physically capable to do something, that means it was suicide. They actually had a woman officer demonstrate the self-binding, proving it was possible. So like that knot I just showed you, they had a woman, evidently it seemed as though she tied it in front of her hands and was able to just make it loose enough where you can put it behind your back and then like cinch it. And an officer was able to recreate a very similar knot. But the thing is, when people investigate what the officer did and what the actual knot was, it seems like it was in the right ballpark, but it wasn't like the knot. And so some people argue that, but I mean, it is possible, I suppose, that you could have tied that knot by yourself. I think it would have been very difficult, but they proved it to be, you're able to do it. They said it's not that complex. I'm like, did you just see that knot? That is a complex knot. I don't know a single thing about knots. I only know one knot. You just tie a little loop.
If you
and
know
another
6
little loop.
languages, it's probably not that complex.
I guess. But I mean, like, if you know 6 languages, that mean that you're like an outdoors person, that you know how to do random knots? I feel like that's the only people that know how to do knots. Maybe. If you're like an official person with like a cop, firefighter, those type, and then if you also like to camp.
Or if you're Blake.
If you know knots? Yeah,
No.
if you're a Boy Scout, I guess.
I don't know knots.
I don't know knots either. Well, the whole scene was considered physically possible to do alone. And so they're like, it's possible. There's a high chance that she did it. So homicide supporters, though, clapping back, as they always do. They said, okay, it's physically possible, but it's so unlikely. Full body restraints, wrist bound behind the back, gag in her mouth. Why would she gag her mouth with a cloth? Like, that just seems like odd behavior that most people don't see in a suicide.
Yeah. I feel like so you don't scream.
Yeah, like, you do that to yourself so you don't scream?
No, I'm just saying either way.
Yeah.
It's like if you do it to yourself or if you don't, it's so you don't scream and draw attention.
Yeah. I know, I think about that too. Like, there's no reason that she has to be quiet. No one else is home, like, in her house. So
Yeah,
it's like,
but like if you're screaming, you're at the place next door, you probably will hear it.
yeah, maybe. I wonder how big the mansion and the property is.
It's
Like,
probably not that big because it's on Coronado.
yeah, that's true. All the houses are pretty close together.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. So, yeah, maybe just trying to be quieter. The argument is against the sheriff doing her own knot was that it does not reflect real world real world distress or spontaneity. Why do I write words I can't pronounce?
Spontaneity.
Spontaneity. Yeah. So whatever. Spontaneous.
Spontaneity.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I need to practice saying words out loud because I like write it and I'm like, I don't know how to say that. But anyways,
I want to start reading out loud.
you gotta start doing that.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
You start doing it.
I do it every week. Thank you very much. They're saying like if you're real world distressed, if you're like panicking, if you're having like a mental breakdown, are you able to like focus up and get this not done? Because it seems like it took the woman sheriff like some concentration, you know. So that's like just theory. But the bindings resemble restraint, not self-binding to a lot of people. Like that rap was crazy, like I showed you. But like I said in that oxygen video I watched for this episode, there was a former prosecutor that was on it. Her name's Lonnie. And she hits home with like the woman aspect. I think she's like retired now. But she's saying how, actually I love this. I love this because she's like, you have to think about the small details that men don't think about. She's like, she hung herself nude. She's like, that is like a humiliating way to like have someone find you. Like that's not a typical thing that a woman's going to do and like display herself in such a manner. And then she goes, also the noose, I suppose, was over her hair. And she's like, first thing a girl does when something touches her over her hair is flip out your hair. And she's like, if someone's doing that to themselves, they're not. She's like, I don't believe that a woman would do it over her hair. And I'm like, that's so funny. I would have never thought of that. And she's like, you have to look into these, the different character of the woman. Like she was so glamorous. She was so gorgeous and like a girly girl type, it seems like. Mm-hmm. And she's like, you have to know the person and their personality to understand, is this something that they would do to themselves? Is this in their character? And Lonnie doesn't believe so.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's a good point because the whole oxygen thing is about trying to get to know Rebecca. And she's like, if you don't know your victim, you don't know what they're willing and likely to do, which I stand on that.
It's true.
Yeah. In the intro of our podcast,
could it have been someone not
Adam?
Like, could it have been like a hired assassin? Because he has lots of money.
I think so.
But also, like, doesn't seem like he's that distraught about his son.
I know.
Like, he just goes right to a business meeting.
Scared you?
Yeah.
You didn't get the call.
Not
so,
yet. Knock on wood.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good question. Actually, the first person they looked into, when all this happened, the investigators called Jonah. They're like, hey, your girlfriend is found dead. And his first thing is, well, she has an ex-husband. And that seems suspicious right away. He's like, if you think there's foul play, she has an ex-husband. His name's Neil. And like her sister is like, Rebecca's sister is like, absolutely it's not Neil. Like he would never do that, all this stuff. But investigators point to the fact that, remember, their divorce was finalized a few months earlier. Mm-hmm. Like maybe she was very emotional. She had a lot going on. But I was like, if you're in a relationship with a different guy for 2 years, you're probably not super emotional for the fact that you just got divorced finalized. Mm-hmm. But it was odd that he pointed to Neil pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And I didn't even think about like hiring somebody, but I guess they were so set on the fact that it didn't look like anyone had like entered the house.
Yeah, but if you're a pro.
Yeah. And that's never really talked about.
And you probably just get keys from from Jonah.
Yeah.
If you're hired to go do it.
True.
Like you just sneak right in, do what you got to do. You make it look like a suicide because you've done it a million times and you're out of there.
I know. And Jonah would probably have could have had a lot of animosity towards her. His son was in her care.
Yeah, but the other thing, like I was saying, like it seems like he's just like back to work and.
Yeah. So.
But
maybe he needed to be out of town.
I feel like pharmaceutical companies, they got a lot of weird access to things. I feel like they're kind of sketchy.
Yeah. Well, allegedly. Also, maybe he had a business meeting because he needed an alibi.
Yeah,
maybe he had to get out of town so that someone else could come in.
True.
Yeah, I didn't think about any of that.
It's like, why do you need to go to a business meeting when your son's in the hospital? Because I need an alibi.
Because I needed to get out of town. Yeah. I didn't even think about that, and it's never really
talked
about.
In the hospital.
What?
Could have just been in the hospital. There's probably a bunch of cameras.
That's true.
It sounds a little better, but.
That is true. Some people like to have this meeting. But regardless, it was just that actually, I don't think that theory comes up really amongst anybody. That is like a hired assassin. But it is,
I'm a genius.
Yeah, you're a genius. But people have talked about the theory of like somebody else coming in, but because of the lack of evidence, it was like dropped pretty quickly. Because that's why Adam gets all this hate, even if he was not involved. But in the beginning, I had an audio playing about this guy, Paul Holes, who was that cold case investigator. And he goes on to say how, like, he has been to so many suicide scenes. And he's like, I have never seen anything like this. It just doesn't happen this way.
Yeah. Also, I feel like maybe Adam would have some wounds, like, unless it was like a sneak attack, like, you know, just like hit him from behind. Mm-hmm. But
like,
other than that,
maybe she'd put up but she's only 100 pounds too.
Yeah, but like you would scratch someone, or you would bruise them, or they would have like marks on their arms or something from punching or
a rope. Yeah, I'm curious.
Or yeah, maybe he had fibers of the rope on him.
I'm curious as to. Well, I guess that wouldn't have been very helpful, the rope, because we know that he cut her down, so he would have been involved with the rope.
Yeah, true.
But I'm curious as to if the investigators did any of that with Adam.
Probably not.
It doesn't seem like they, especially in those first few days, they didn't do anything to indicate that there could have been somebody else involved. And so I don't believe that he probably would have had his hands checked and see if there's scratch marks and all that. But I don't have the paperwork to say if they did or not.
Yeah.
But then, of course, you have them pointing to the behavior. Like, Max just had this huge fall. It doesn't look like he's going to recover. And Rebecca had insane guilt over this, which is true. Like, we know that she called her family, that she was hysterical over the phone about the situation. But there's like, I feel like there's a balance of someone sounding hopeless and someone sounding distraught. Mm-hmm. And the family feels as though she was just very distraught and like grieving, but not to the point where she felt as though life couldn't move on type of attitude.
I feel like every family would feel that way though.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I feel like it's so hard. Like, even families that do have someone that commits suicide, which is so sad, I feel as though, like, it's always, I would never think that they would do that. They never gave any indication, you know? Mm-hmm. And so Rebecca not saying anything, I guess, doesn't really say all too much, because I don't think it's very common that it's that obvious, right? Like, when people commit such a sad act. But the investigators point to, like, one big thing, and it's that Jonah Shacknight left Rebecca a voicemail around 12:50 in the morning, informing her that his son Max, his condition was not improving, and that the prognosis was very poor. So phone records show that the voicemail was accessed, and maybe that's what triggered her to literally over the edge. Mm-hmm. And that it was like overwhelming, like in that moment, blind rage, blind emotions, where that's the news that did it for her. Mm-hmm. We know that call came in around 12:50, and her death could have been anytime between 1 a.m. and 6 a.m., which is quite the range.
Yeah.
So they said that she had sent texts around that time, like 12:30 in the morning, indicating that she was awake, that she was mobile, that she was around. So it's not like she was sleeping and then all of a sudden had been found dead, is what the investigators are saying, which very well could happen. Like, you see people, like, when people murder someone, they're like, oh, I just saw red, you know, like, I don't remember anything, you know, and I imagine that can happen if you have an emotional break as well, which is sickening. But, of course, there was no traditional suicide notes. Family states that her religious beliefs, I think she became a Christian when she came to the United States, and they are like, she would not do that as a Christian. She talked about future plans, all things, and that divorce, they're like, no, that's not a factor, because investigators are like, but she just got divorced, and they're like, that doesn't matter.
Yeah, but I feel like when you're super sad, like, all those things go out the door.
Yeah.
Like, or a lot. Like, you can't be like, oh, it's because she believes this, or
yeah, because you have no idea.
This, like, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. You hear that a lot too. Like, they would do this for religious beliefs. It's like, sometimes that's the last thing in your mind because of how depressed you are.
Yeah.
Okay, one thing I haven't mentioned. This is such a weird detail. I have no idea where this fits in the story and, like, what this even means. But one detail investigators documented at the scene, but it didn't like immediately get public emphasis, I don't think, but it was a message painted on a door near the balcony where Rebecca was found. Written in black paint, the message read, "She saved him, can you save her?" Okay.
Okay, how's that not weird?
I have no idea. This is what it looks like. I was like, what the heck is this? That's weird.
What does it say again?
She saved him, can you save her?
Who saved who? She saved him?
They're thinking that she wrote that about herself in third person, saying that Rebecca saved Max, and can you save Rebecca? Okay, first of all, none of that makes sense.
Yeah, because she didn't really save him.
She didn't save him, and everyone's like, she does not talk in third person like this. Like, this is the weirdest message ever.
That's creepy.
Isn't that so unsettling?
Yeah, I feel like nobody saved anybody.
Yeah, everyone dies in this story.
Whoa.
Yeah. Well, everyone being Rebecca and Max ends up passing away.
Oh, that's sad.
I know, horrible. I don't know if I bring that up later, but yeah, heartbreaking. Both of them don't make it from their injuries. So this message is like that much more confusing. Like, what do you mean? I have no idea.
Yeah.
So they think it's like contextual evidence rather than a suicide note. More so like expressive or a symbolic act that they believed reflected Rebecca's emotional state in the days following Max's fall. But that little note is like one of the most back and forth disputed thing ever. Because you have the family being like, she does not talk in third person.
So strange.
It's so weird.
Like, creepy, like, it sounds like
Eerie.
assassination. Like,
I know. I'm more on board with your theory right now.
Yeah, I think I crushed it.
I think you crushed it. I don't know. Who's checking that out? Because that needs to be investigated. And, like, the family said, okay, very inconsistent with Rebecca's style of writing and her handwriting. Obviously, it's black paint. Like, that's kind of
it's hard to do.
Hard tool, yeah.
If you're a girl, I feel like you have
a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's, like, a journaler. Like, she's a writer. Like, she talks very flowery. And, like, she's known to be very artistic with her speech. And, like, this
How
weird,
strange.
choppy message. Like,
Yeah.
everyone's...
In third person?
Yeah, so weird. And everyone that knows her says, like, she's not like a short texter. Like, she is a paragraph girl. Like, if she's going to leave a last message, it's going to be, like, a well-written, like a whole thing, you know? Not some, like, weird, mysterious, like, unsettling last message.
Yeah. Also, if you're an assassin or if you're Adam or someone, like, why would you do that? It makes it so weird.
I know. So the family's like, is this staged? Is it misleading? Like, investigators are like, oh, she just wrote it herself, like, case closed. And everyone else is like, this seems very odd.
Yeah.
It seems like staging to me. It seems like
But why would you want to stage that? I feel like you should put like it in first person to make it sound like kind of like a suicide note or something, not third person.
That's true. And then that makes me think like if
Like
they were trying to make it seem like Rebecca, I'm like, they must not know her at all. To like, that doesn't sound like Rebecca at all, according to people who know her.
Yeah.
So I'm like, one, it doesn't sound like her if you're trying to sound like her. And two, it doesn't even sound like you're talking about yourself if you're trying to be Rebecca. It definitely sounds like someone's talking about the situation. But even then, it's confusing because I'm like, with this story, the wording doesn't make sense. I don't know. That's what hangs me up so much.
It's hanging you up.
Sorry,
that was
not great. Not great. Not great word choice there. But on top of that, so obviously the paint situation's weird. The message is weird. Also, why go grab paint in the garage just to come back and write it on the wall instead of like writing a note?
Yeah.
It seems so dramatic.
Why do they have paint?
I don't know. Some people have paint around the house. We have like paint right there. Or we did.
Oh, yeah.
But
Spray paint.
we had regular paint too.
Oh.
For in between these things. But I don't know. I guess they just had it. But it seems odd. I'm like, it seems like it's very displayed. It's like very theatrical. Like that you went and wrote it on the wall instead of just like having a piece of paper or writing a text. You know, it's anything. I don't know. It seems a little extreme.
In all ways, it feels weird to me.
Every way.
If it's Adam, if it's an assassin, or if it's her, and each one, it doesn't make sense why they put it.
I have no idea. It is very weird. And what gets me also is there was paint on the rope, which makes sense if someone handled rope and paint.
And if you're using your finger.
Yeah, it seems like they must have been using their hand or some sort.
No fingerprints on that?
I
Or
guess
are these
not.
a brush?
Yeah, I don't know if they were rushing or I mean, the picture I showed you earlier of her the mess on the room, on the floor, there was a paintbrush. So maybe, like, you know how when you paint, I would know, when you paint, you just naturally get on the side of your hand because you're
Yeah.
moving. I think it's more like that, not like writing with her hand type of
I
paint.
wonder if you can get prints from right here. I think you can get palm prints.
You can, yeah, you can definitely get palm prints.
Yeah, I'm talking about like right here.
I'm sure. Well, I don't know, like, how, like, identifiable it would be, though. But, so, interesting enough, black paint was found on the rope used for suspension and examined the transfer pattern and handling. So, investigators saw this, and they interpreted this as evidence that she wrote the message and then handled the rope. In my opinion, anyone who wrote the message handled the rope. So, like, why does it mean that it was her?
Yeah.
And they said it was her, because I guess she had some paint on her hands. But, like,
You can just dip someone's hand in paint.
yeah, but well, it didn't even look like that. In the photos, she almost has like no paint on her hands. It's like barely any. And evidently, where the paint was on the rope, it didn't seem like it'd be consistent with somebody, like if you were handling the rope by yourself. Like, it's in odd places. Like, the pattern of it is weird. Because you have two different people, one with the family, one with the investigators, both saying that the paint is either consistent or inconsistent with Rebecca doing it. So, of course, it depends on who you trust. But evidently, it seems as though there just wasn't enough paint on her hands to be transferring that much paint onto the rope. Like, it seems like you had to have a lot of paint on your hands in order to get the rope that painted, if that makes sense. But we really don't have enough information to dive into what's more consistent, if it was with Rebecca's hand and paint or if it was paint transfer that wasn't on Rebecca's hands. But either way, that's an odd thing. I feel like that would be really telling. I feel like that could have been something that they looked more into.
I do too.
Frustrating.
Yeah.
With the San Diego County Sheriff's Department ruling Rebecca Zahau's death a suicide, the criminal investigation formally ended. So no charges were filed. And from a law enforcement perspective, the case was closed. But like I said, for Rebecca's family, the ruling did not resolve the questions that they believed remained unanswered, disagreeing with both the manner of death and the interpretation of the physical evidence. And so they chose a different legal path. Instead of appealing to prosecutors, they turned to civil court, actually. And like for civil court, the burden of proof is so much lower. The question is not whether someone is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, but it's whether someone is more likely than not responsible, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So it was in that courtroom that the case would be examined again under a different standard. So I just gave you like all the evidence that really they have at the scene and both sides, like both theories to it. So in 2013, Rebecca's family filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Adam Shackney. Yeah. So the legal question was whether Adam was more likely than not responsible for Rebecca's death. And so they just had to be like over 50% certain that he could have been responsible.
Have you seen Mercy? It's a new movie, but basically like there's like this program like AI that if you get accused of murder and it's a high probability that you did it, then you go to this like AI court and you have to try to prove yourself innocent, like and lower your probability, or you get killed.
Oh my gosh!
And so like, but you get access to everything, like all
you try to prove
documents,
yourself innocent?
yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it just kind of made me think of that, but
that's kind of what it feels like, though. It's like you're really. I was shocked. I didn't realize that you only had to have 50% certainty, or over 50% certainty in order to win a civil court. Yeah, in order to win a civil court. So the trial took place in 2018 in San Diego Superior Court. Rebecca Sammy argued that Adam had the most opportunity. He was the only other person within range that they have evidence that he was there. Because like if there was a random person that came in the house, there was no evidence that somebody random came into the house. He was present during the window between Rebecca's last phone call activity and then the 911 call. So same thing. He had opportunity. And like I said, no one else was placed at the scene. And so then, of course, all the reasons we mentioned were involved in this court case. Why they think it was foul play. It's so difficult because both the original investigators in the family, and now the family versus Adam, they have the same exact evidence they're looking at. It's crazy. It can be interpreted so differently.
yeah.
So this is going to be a very difficult court case for both sides of like the prosecutor and the defendant, because it's just whoever sells it better, really. Adam's legal team argued that law enforcement already ruled it a suicide, that there was no evidence of a homicide, and that he had no motive. So during this trial, attorneys for the family of Rebecca alleged that Rebecca was also sexually assaulted prior to her death. As you remember, the medical examiner said there was no sexual assault in his examination. This is crazy to me. Their experts, the experts that the family hired, pointed to small injuries in her genital area that they believed were caused by a knife. And I feel like if you have injuries like that with a knife, there's like how could you see that and not think that there was sexual assault?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, one of the biggest evidences that makes them think that there was a sexual assault is that a knife was recovered at the scene, and there was blood around the whole knife. And everyone agrees and knows that Rebecca was on her period during this time. And they're like, if you are just cutting a rope, if you're just cutting something that's slipping and you got blood on it, you're not going to have blood around the whole exterior of the knife.
Yeah.
I thought that was very odd. I was like, how did that not get tested? And I know that you can test blood. Blood is different. Like menstrual blood is different than your regular blood.
Ew.
And they they could have tested for that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, how could you not have done that at the time to see if anything was more foul play there? Because we know that she's not doing that to herself.
Yeah.
The family experts argue that the injuries were consistent with sexual assault involving a blade, and it was not explained away by the hanging. Because that's one thing that the other medical examiner said. All her bodily injuries, including anything around that area, could have been explained away by the hanging. Which I'm like, is somebody paying this medical examiner off? Because that seems ridiculous to me. I don't know. The official autopsy, however, like I said, found no evidence of this, and they didn't find any third party or second person DNA on Rebecca, so that's why they concluded that there was no sexual assault. But I'm like, you don't have to have semen to know that there was sexual assault if you use a knife. I don't know. So dumb. The issue, therefore, became a contestant interpretation of the same physical findings during the civil trial rather than a criminal proven assault. So, if this happened, though, who else could have done it beside Adam?
Assassin.
This is what you're saying. And I literally didn't even think of that because I was so focused on the fact that there was no evidence that anyone came in. But if you're a professional...
Or if you're hired by the person that owns the house.
Yeah, seriously.
Or, yeah.
I mean, from all accounts, it seemed like Rebecca and Jonah's relationship was really solid. This is them. But obviously, you throw a death of a child in, and that can easily change things. But, yeah, I didn't even think about that. And at first, they even looked into Neil because Jonah's like, go talk to Neil. And Neil was like in Arizona, like solid alibi. He's like, what the heck is going on? Which is so sad. Anyways. Adam Shackney, he took a privately administered polygraph, actually, and was reported to have passed it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But the results were not admissible in court, obviously, and so it had, like, no weight in his trial. But I did find that interesting. I watched some of his polygraph, and one of the questions was, like, were you and Rebecca ever flirty? And he was like, well... I mean, no. He's like, well, she was pretty attractive, and I think I'm probably pretty good looking. He's probably the ugliest man I've ever seen. I was like, absolutely. Okay, that's what I mean, because he's not convicted. So I was like, that sounds like you kind of were flirty. I feel like that could have been a dink on his polygraph test. But
maybe he's just being honest.
Yeah, that's true. He's like, I gotta be honest. I think I'm pretty good looking. Yeah, true. And so... that sounded to me like maybe he did have interest in her, but regardless, he did pass his polygraph test according to the reports I read. And the trial went back and forth on this evidence, like we talked about, and all the different ways you can interpret it. So after weeks of testimony, the jury came back with a verdict. What do you think?
Not guilty.
Adam Shackney was found liable for Rebecca Zahau's death. Yeah. So damages were awarded approximately $5 million to Rebecca's family. Yeah, big court case. So obviously important things to know is like this is not a criminal conviction, so I can't slander him because there's a really good chance he's innocent. And Adam was not sentenced to prison, obviously, because it's civil court. So he only had to pay that $5 million, which is a ton, on top of all the defense fees I'm sure he had to pay. But the verdict just reflects civil liability only. So that's where Adam stands as far as the case goes. But Adam, to this day, maintains his innocence. He says that he had nothing to do with Rebecca's fall. The San Diego Sheriff's Department did not reopen the criminal case. They refused to look at the fact that there's too many unanswered questions. That's one thing that always drives me crazy is why not just leave it undetermined so if people want to work on it, they can. Like, why keep it closed?
Yeah.
Which is such a frustrating thing. So
Maybe it's just a thing that they're trying to get it closed because Coronado's a touristy town.
yeah. I'm sure it looks better for them saying they have another case closed under their belt.
Yeah, and it's no harm to the community.
Yeah. Like, oh, there's a strange man that came into this house and now everyone's scared to visit Coronado. That's true. So to this day, official manner of death remains suicide. What are you thinking?
I still think allegedly someone did it.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
But you don't, not necessarily Adam. You just think that somebody could have done it.
Yeah.
I tend to lean the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Like allegedly. Well, we can have an opinion.
Alleged opinion.
If this case is interesting to people, so Oxygen True Crime has that series I mentioned that they do all these different experiments with dummy reenactment at the crime scene. Mm-hmm. From that is actually why I like watching those. I have a stronger lean towards homicide, and they're not trying to prove homicide or suicide. They're just seeing like, is this all like, does this line up with the evidence? And like I mentioned, with the bed, like it being tied, the body being tied to the bed, it moving that, they couldn't reenact only 7 inches. Yeah. Like they couldn't do it. And so it's like, why would that happen? They had the same bed frame, the same mattress, the same carpet, padding, and flooring. Like they really reenact this thing.
That's why I think it was lowered down. And then it,
that's the only thing that makes sense.
Like maybe you're dropping like 2 feet instead of 9.
That's true.
So they just moved it 7 inches to 30.
I wonder why somebody would be gentle.
Maybe they're just worried about. Maybe she's already dead, so they're just worried about. Like the bed, like pulling all the way through.
See, you need to go talk to these people. Maybe make a comment on Oxygen True Crime.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I was like watching that, and then they had a couple of different other things with the dummy, but so it's very fascinating to go see. It was almost like unsettling because like you're watching this dummy fall over this like ledge. It's really unsettling. Mm-hmm. And she was like 2 feet off the ground, I think, in real life. And they couldn't reenact it where she didn't hit the ground with the same length of rope because it went 40 inches instead of 7 inches, you know. So very fascinating. And they're just trying to answer some of the questions. But in these experiments, they're just having more questions than answers. So it's crazy. 2 legal systems examined the same evidence and reached 2 different conclusions. And more than a decade later, the question at the center of Rebecca Zahau's death remains not what was ruled, but what truly happened on the balcony before dawn. And this is the bizarre case surrounding the suspicious death of Rebecca Zahau.
Dang.
Isn't that crazy. So bizarre?
Yeah.
I was like, I genuinely do not understand any of this. Like, especially the writing on the door, especially the bed frame after the experiments. I mean, maybe things happen differently, but it seems like they got that dialed in. I don't know. It's just so bizarre, and it's so sad that they won't open the case back up. But I hope the family feels a little bit of peace about at least their civil court case. And I don't know.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, so sad. Well, do you want to do true crime news?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll grab my phone.
Oh, okay.
Everyone, welcome back to another episode of True Crime News.
Yippee!
All right, so we'll start in California. Man found guilty of killing girlfriend in front of their kids.
No way.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
A murder conviction in California hits home for a young family. According to True Crime News, in Daly City, California, Romier Tagum, I don't know how to say the last name, age 30, was found guilty February 8, 2026 of first-degree murder, felony child abuse, and child endangerment for fatally shooting his girlfriend, 26-year-old Frances Kendra Lucero, as she ran towards their home. Their 3- and 4-year-old children witnessed the shooting in 2023.
Dang.
In New York, dad allegedly attacked family before suicide.
What the
Domestic
heck?
violence.
It's
turns
always the dads
deadly.
that do that, I swear.
Yeah. And
So
ends in tragedy. According to True Crime News on February 1st, 2026, 53-year-old Roy Victorio allegedly stabbed his wife and daughter and struck his teen son with a dumbbell inside their New York home
gosh.
before taking his own life. All surviving victims were hospitalized and reportedly remain in stable condition as investigators continue their inquiry.
Wait, so the rest of the family survived? Or
Yeah, I think so. Mom gets life in prison for killing son with dumbbells.
what the heck? Wait, are you kidding me?
I'm
Different stories, two
Yeah.
different things attacked with dumbbells?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Dumbbells are heavy. How are you just swinging those around? What the heck?
Maybe they're like 20 pounds or something.
That's so bizarre.
A chilling child abuse case concludes with a life sentence. True Crime News reports that a 38-year-old Kimberly Mills has been sentenced to life in prison after pleading no contest to charges related to son's death. He's a younger guy, sadly, who prosecutors say was duct taped to a ladder and repeatedly struck with a dumbbell in February 2025. The boy later died after being hospitalized.
How young
So,
was he?
10.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That is
So,
crazy.
That's it for True Crime News today.
That was a hard thing to get through this time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Families, it's crazy how your family, like, you're the closest with them or you're killing each other, it feels like.
Yeah.
It's insane. So much emotion.
Mhm.
Wow. So that is our case for this week. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week with another episode of Siblings in Crime.
Thank you. Adios.
There you go.